Tensions between the United States and Iran are rising as Washington signals that military action remains a possible response to events unfolding inside Iran. This comes after a deadly crackdown on nationwide protests, where thousands of people are reported to have been killed or injured. U.S. officials say the situation inside Iran has quieted for now, but they question how long that calm can last. At the same time, American military assets are reportedly being moved closer to the region, raising international concern about what steps could come next. As global attention focuses on Tehran, the question being closely watched is whether diplomatic pressure will continue or whether the crisis could escalate further. This story centers on ongoing unrest in Iran, the government's response to widespread protests, and the reaction from the United States and the international community. The developments involve internal violence, international warnings, and visible military positioning by the U.S. Protests that began over economic conditions in Iran escalated into broad demonstrations against the country's leadership. Iranian authorities responded with a severe crackdown, resulting in large numbers of deaths, injuries, and arrests. Reports indicate that more than 2,600 people may have been killed during the unrest. Thousands more were injured and many were detained. Iranian officials also claimed that public buildings, including mosques, prayer halls, hospitals, and ambulances, suffered damage during the unrest. In recent days, the streets of Iran have appeared quieter. However, reports continue to emerge of funerals for those killed and scattered incidents of unrest. Inside Iran, protesters from across society took part in demonstrations that moved beyond economic grievances to direct opposition to the ruling system. Iran's security forces and internal enforcement agencies carried out the crackdown and remain firmly loyal to the country's leadership. Internationally, the United States is a central actor. President Donald Trump has stated that all options remain under consideration in response to the violence. At the United Nations, the U.S. ambassador reaffirmed support for Iranian protesters and placed responsibility for the crisis on Iran's leadership. Iranian American activists and former U.S. officials have also spoken publicly, condemning Iran's actions and describing the government as responsible for violence both inside and outside its borders. The protests and crackdown took place across Iran over recent weeks. International discussions followed shortly after, including an emergency session at the United Nations Security Council. At the same time, U.S. military movements toward the Middle East were reported, signaling heightened readiness amid the crisis. The situation matters for several reasons. First, the scale of reported deaths and arrests marks one of the most severe internal crackdowns Iran has faced in years. Second, the United States has publicly linked the violence to possible consequences, including military action, which raises concerns about regional stability. Any confrontation involving Iran could have broader effects across the Middle East. Third, the unrest highlights deep economic pressure inside Iran, including high inflation and rising food costs, which continue to strain daily life for citizens. Finally, regional allies are watching closely. Iran's weakened internal and external position has shifted dynamics in the Middle East, creating uncertainty about future power balances. For now, the protests appear to have subsided, partly due to heavy enforcement and a near-total shutdown of internet access inside Iran. This blackout has limited information coming out of the country, making it difficult to fully assess conditions on the ground. The U.S. has confirmed that additional military assets are being positioned in the region, including reports of an aircraft carrier group. However, no final decision on military action has been announced. U.S. officials continue to state that all options remain available, while Iran's leadership maintains control through its security forces. The situation in Iran remains tense but uncertain. While public demonstrations have slowed, the underlying pressures that fueled the unrest have not disappeared. With the United States signaling readiness and international attention focused on Tehran, the coming period will be closely watched for signs of escalation or restraint. For now, the crisis stands at a critical moment with major implications for Iran, the region, and global politics.